What's up, guys? Jackie Benedetto, BrickHousePower.com. Let's talk about knees caving in during the squat and deadlift. Now, the way powerlifting training has been going for the past few years, it is very sport specific. Powerlifters will squat, bench, and deadlift, and that's basically all they'll do. There might be slight variations from those main lifts, but there's not really much beyond that. Upside to that kind of training is you're going to get really, really strong, really fast in those lifts because that's what you're doing and your body's going to adapt to it. Downside is you're not building a base of strength outside of that. So, especially since we don't do sports really outside of powerlifting with these newer athletes, they kind of jump right into powerlifting. They're not playing baseball, football, softball, volleyball, any other kind of sport beforehand, so they don't really have any kind of base to work off of. So they come into the sport with their genetic weaknesses, right? So they start squatting and their knees cave in. They start benching and their elbows flare out big time, or so on and so forth. Now, instead of correcting these weaknesses, because some things are technical flaws, you just got to teach them how to get better. And the theory behind the sports specificity, the sports specific training, is just keep having them do it and they'll get more and more proficient at it. And that's true to a certain extent. But if you keep having them do something with bad technique and with these glaring weaknesses, they're going to reinforce these bad techniques, and these glaring weaknesses are not going to go anywhere. You have to attack them. So for the sake of this video, I want to talk about knees caving in, because this is something that really is not going to go away by just squatting, by just deadlifting. You really have to attack this without, just doing the squat and the deadlift. And I'm going to put up some videos while I talk, and you can see it, because it's not just the amateurs, it's all the way up to the pro level. And the pros are already breaking world records. They have the world records. Imagine what they could be doing if they just corrected these small issues. And imagine how much more they would lift if they were able to actually use the strength that they have already and put that into the bar, rather than fighting against their own body just to keep their knees where they're supposed to be. Because right now their knees are caving in and they can't finish the lift because they can't get their glutes through, and they can't get their back up straight, and they can't finish the lift. Basically, they're losing the lift because their glutes won't finish through. They can't get their hips through the lift. If they can fix that, they're going to be able to lift probably instantly anywhere between 15 and 20 kilos more for the lighter lifters, and probably 20 to 30 kilos for the heavier lifters, bigger lifters. I mean, that's not an exaggeration. I've had a couple people come to me, and I've fixed that issue, and without them getting any stronger anywhere else, I've actually had them back off on the weight, fix that issue, and then when we tested again, they were just instantly just stronger. But they weren't actually stronger, they were just able to display it because now they didn't have this weakness that held them back. They didn't have that weak link in the chain anymore. So how do you go about fixing the knees caving in? Now, it could be a number of things. I don't know, because I don't have you here with me to assess. So I'm going to run through a few things and you can do your own research, right? So one is going to be your hip structure. Depending on how you're genetically built will depend on how wide you stand. If your favorite lifter stands really wide and you're not built for that, that's going to make your knees cave in when you push, when you drive in. Your knees are going to come in because your hips aren't built to stand wide. Same reason why some people can point their feet straight or they have to point them out. These are all genetic things that you can't change, right? So if you notice that your knees are caving in and you have a wider stance, bring your feet in slightly. See if that fixes it automatically. Record yourself from the front. If that fixes it, you're good to go right off the bat. Let's move on to actual glute weakness. These are probably the main causes. There could be a foot weakness here, ankle weakness, but most of the time, like 90+% of the time, it's your glutes. How do we go about fixing that? You should still squat, you should still deadlift, but you should replace one of those squat variations with something like wide stance box squats, squatting with a band around your knees, do clamshells as part of your warm-ups, and maybe have them, as like an assistance exercise. I'll see if I can find a video and I'll put that up in here. Sumo deadlifts are fantastic for this. Now, I'm naming off these exercises and you should be writing them down. If not, just rewind and write them down. The sets and rep ranges are going to be what you would normally do for your sets and reps. I would recommend higher rep ranges for powerlifters, 5 to like 8 reps. But the more important thing is, if you're especially for the wide stance squatting, the sumo deadlifting, the squatting with a band around your knees, you can also add squatting, single leg squatting off of a box, making sure that your knee is over your ankle, not too far over, not caved in, like externally rotating. And the most important part is, if you notice that your knees are starting to cave in, one, I want you to lighten the weight and start to set over, if that's happening on the first rep. 2, I want you to, if your knees are caving in, say later on in the set, say you're doing like sets of 8, and around like set 6 or rep 6, they start to cave in, you're done. Cut it. Don't even do the rest of the reps. You're done. You don't want to reinforce the bad behavior, because once that muscle that's already your weak link starts to be the first thing that stops, you don't want to reinforce your body saying, hey, let's finish the lift with the strong muscles. You're already in that position now. You're already making that mistake. You want to correct that mistake. So do the wide stance squats, do the regular squatting. Even when you're doing your regular squats, if you notice your knees are starting to really cave in, a little bit of movement is fine, but they start to really come in, cut it. Finish it in, rack it. There's no point in pushing past that weak muscle until it's strong. When it's strong, trust me, take 2 steps back, because when you fix this, and it won't take long, for the longest I've seen it start to really like come around is probably like week 6. And I know that sounds long for some of you because you need that instant fix. But trust me, around week 6 to week 8, if you take some time off and you really hammer this weakness, your lift, your squat and your deadlift are gonna fly through the roof. Your old numbers are gonna be like warm-ups. I promise you that. So try those. Wide stance box squats, squatting with a band around your knees, sumo deadlifts, single leg squatting off of a box, split leg squats, Bulgarian split squats. Make everything's over your ankles here. Nothing's pushing out too far. Nothing's caving in. All these kinds of things are assistance exercises that you can put in a clamshell where you're coming up on both knees. Again, I can't remember the damn name, but I'll put it in there. These are all things that you need to do. Do not copy your favorite lifters that are at the top where this is happening to them. Just because they're the strongest in the world does not mean you should copy what they are doing. You should follow your body and listen to the weaknesses that it has and be the best that you can be. I hope that helps. If you have any questions, please leave them in a comment. Subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later.